Hey everyone, this is Dayu from EcommOps. I have an econ degree from Stanford, I have an MBA from Wharton, and this is the EcommMBA series where I take proven business strategies and help apply it to your e-commerce business. Today we're going to talk about the concept of customer lifetime value, or customer LTV. And it's honestly the reason why a lot of massive businesses make tons of money. And I'm not talking about 7 or 8 figures, I'm talking about hundreds of millions of billions of dollars. We're going to talk about a couple of case studies in great businesses, and of course we're going to talk about how to apply it to your e-commerce business. So let's get started. So what is customer lifetime value? Simply put, it's the value that a single theoretical customer or the average customer brings in value, most likely revenue, to your business over a theoretical lifetime. A lot of store owners these days focus so much on the first sale. They focus so much on just the ROAS on that first sale and just move on from the product or store if it doesn't seem profitable. But really, you really want to be focusing for this equation. That is the customer lifetime value being greater than the cost to acquire that customer. So why does this actually matter? Now, even if you heard about the concept of the customer LTV, I think that a lot of folks have kind of the wrong idea. So boosting your customer LTV is not just about just making more money. It's going to make you more money, by the way. You want to think about it this way. The more that you can boost your customer LTV, the more that you can actually have a higher acquisition cost to acquire that customer. And I'll tell you why this is so important. And by the way, this is a simple equation. Obviously, there's operational costs as well. So you got to factor that in, but this is going to be a high level video. So we're not going to talk about the details of actually calculating your operational costs from the LTV. Before I get a little bit more in depth, let's talk about some case studies. So I'm going to talk about kind of an extreme example. So before I was in e-commerce, I used to work as a product manager in tech, making free-to-play games for mobile devices, for iPhones, for Android. Free-to-play games, like those games where you can download for free and you can pay money for power-ups or skins, whatever, stuff like Clash of Clans, for example, Fortnite, Candy Crush. Now, these games, they all spend money to acquire their users, the equivalent of customers. And the thing is, if you think about it, these are free games. They spend money to acquire players, and literally they do not get anything back in return when that player starts playing that game. I mean, this is the extreme example of getting nothing back on the first sale, or in this case, the first install of that game. Now, we're gonna use Fortnite as an example. Even if you have not played it, you probably have heard of it. I have a question. How much would you guess the average player spends on Fortnite per year? $100, roughly $100. The average player of Fortnite spends roughly $100 on a game that is supposed to be free to play. Now, why does this matter? Going back to our equation, if their customer lifetime value, and by the way, this is not even lifetime value, but their value over 1 year is $100, then they can spend up to $100, again, not accounting for operational costs, but they can spend simply $100 and break even on that cost of acquiring that customer or player within 1 year, and everything else is just profit. Now let's compare this to the average free-to-play game. The average free-to-play game costs roughly $5 or so in marketing costs, Facebook ad costs, Google ad costs, to acquire each average player. $5. Whereas Fortnite, with its $100 average per player per year, they can literally spend 20 times what other companies spend on average and still break even after 1 year. And that's crazy, right? Now, this quote is really important here. A quote from Dan Kennedy, who said, "The business that can spend the most to acquire a customer wins." It's really a virtuous cycle. The higher your customer LTV is, the more that you can spend to acquire more customers, which means that you can make a lot more revenue over the long run. And this is kind of where you see that, okay, the LTV is not really just about making more money on that side, but it allows you to have a much bigger budget. It allows you to acquire customers at much higher cost, and especially with something like Facebook ads, which is like an auction, the more you can spend versus your competitors, the more customers, the more users you're going to be able to acquire. And the result, in 2019, Fortnite made $3.5 billion on 350 million players. That's a lot of money. And how did they acquire those 350 million players? Well, sure, there's a lot of organic installs. A lot of people heard about their friends playing Fortnite, but they run a ton of ads, and that's how they really blew up. And it's because they have such a high CLTV compared to the rest of the industry. So a free-to-play game is not the same as e-commerce. So now let's go over a more tangible example that applies to you, and that is the Dollar Shave Club. So Dollar Shave Club, they a couple years back, they came to really try to disrupt the whole razor and blade industry that was dominated by Gillette. They offered a free razor itself, and they actually make a lot of money on the blades themselves, and they sell these subscription services on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to men and women, and they also upsell a lot of other products as well. Now, when you first go through Dollar Shave Club's website, which I recommend just checking out, by the way, they ask you a few questions, they give you a bunch of recommendations on what they think that you should subscribe to or purchase from them. So this is what they recommended for me. They recommended the middle handle is free. That's how they get you. They have this whole gimmick where the handle is free, but you have to pay for the blades. And they recommended that I get 4 packs of 6 blade refills, 2 of them every 2 months, because I said that I try to shave every single day. And on top of that, I said I had straight hair, so they also recommended me the shampoo as well. So the blades themselves, they cost $18. The shampoo costs $8.10 every 2 months. So add that all together, that's $156.6 per year, more than $150 per year on this subscription basis. I mean, you think about LTV, that is great LTV, assuming that you actually keep on subscribing. And what was the result? Dollar Shave Club was acquired for $1 billion by Unilever. Oh, and by the way, you guys are gonna like this. So Dollar Shave Club, they don't even make their own razor. They didn't make their own razors. They just private labeled a generic brand called Dorco. Granted, it was a pretty good product, but literally they're the exact same product that Dollar Shave Club just branded, and you can actually get the exact same thing on Amazon for pretty much the same price, sometimes cheaper. And if you buy it directly in bulk from Dorco, you get 30% savings. And I hear a lot of people in e-commerce are convinced that you have to create something completely new to make a lot of money, and that's simply not true. This is a perfect example. This is literally private labeling, which is something that actually, we already do for half of our clients, right? You don't need to recreate the wheel. You don't need an amazing new product. Branding is obviously important, but this is a perfect example of where the business model was a lot more important than the product itself, and a perfect example of great knowledge of how to improve your customer lifetime value. And so how do they do it then, right? If you think about it, most dropshippers, most e-commerce store owners, they really focus on the right side of the equation. They focus on how do you reduce your customer acquisition costs as much as possible, which is obviously important, but they focus on the left side. They focus on how to increase their lifetime value as much as possible so that they don't have to worry quite as much about the acquisition costs, or in fact, they pumped marketing dollars in order to acquire more customers because it actually made sense because their LTV was so high. Now let's go into a little bit more detail here and break down the customer LTV equation some more. So in this case, and for most e-commerce businesses, customer lifetime value breaks down into the average order value times the purchase frequency times the average customer lifetime. So starting with the average order value, the AOV, is that they increased their AOV by selling products in packs. They upsold or cross-sold relevant offers. Their purchase frequency was basically increased by the nature of the product itself. So it was a consumable product that needed refills. Everyone needs to buy razors all the time if you shave. and they increase the average customer lifetime by making recurring subscriptions as a default option and making it sensible as well, right? I mean, if you shave all the time, it's kind of nice to be able to just get a razor or a pack of blades in your mailbox every month or every couple of months. Now, I'm sure that if you've been in e-commerce and you've been experienced, you've probably heard of all these terms, particularly probably AOV or repeat purchases. So you're probably familiar with this already. However, you really have to think about things more holistically. You have to think about this entire equation, how it multiplies to come together, and you have to have an estimate of what your actual customer LTV is going to be. Now, how to actually calculate that is probably going to require like Excel spreadsheets and a lot of your customer data. I might actually create a video on that in more detail in a future video. If you want to see that, by the way, comment below. But you really have to just combine everything together and focus on the holistic picture of increasing your customer's lifetime value. Now, honestly, Dollar Shave Club is unique. Don't try to copy their business model. I don't really think there's a lot of opportunity out there anymore. But again, they took a generic product in a crowded industry. They did something very different with it. It's something that you can definitely do yourself. Look, I'll be honest, there's going to be some products that are just going to be a one-time purchase. And maybe those are the products that you just make money off of a couple months and move on to something else. However, that's always going to get you into the same grind of always testing new products and moving on afterwards. But if you can figure out how you can find products or a product that has a lot of these features, and maybe all of these features, right? You know, how can you have products that you can actually sell a lot of impacts? How do you have products that make sense for people to purchase over and over again, whether it's consumable or not? How do you find products that just someone is going to be willing to potentially get into a subscription so that you have something just automatically brings you revenue and automatically increases confidence in the extending the lifetime of your customers' lifetime purchasing from you as well. Now, obviously finding that product and finding those strategies is going to be a little bit more difficult than it sounds. I'll be honest with you, but I hope that these two case studies, especially the last one, shows you that this is certainly possible. And you don't have to make $1 billion, by the way, you know, but I hope that this really helps you think through how do you really just make more money, go from 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures. And in fact, quite a few of our biggest clients from EcommOps, they let me know that they're not really actually making money on the first sale. Some of them are actually literally losing money on the first sale, but they're so confident in their ability to extend that lifetime value that they don't really care, and they're happy to pump marketing dollars and get huge volumes and make money on the back end. Now, as a reminder though, this is a simplified equation. You still have to account for the operational cost of fulfilling your product, the cogs of your product, and just be aware of that. I might talk about that in a different video as well. All right, guys. Well, hope that was helpful. If you like this video, please subscribe. Please turn on the bell notifications. You get notified when there's more videos from this series. And please join our EcommOps Facebook group as well, where we talk a lot about operations and logistics. And we do run a premium fulfillment service out of China, ecommops.com. We'll link to it below as well. And this is Dayu from EcommOps, and this is the EcommMBA series. See you guys next time.